James Whale has died aged 74 following a brave battle with cancer. The former celebrity Big Brother star had been diagnosed with kidney cancer in 2000, which he battled. At the time, the broadcasting star had one of his kidneys removed due to a cancerous tumor on it. However, after feeling unwell for about a year, the radio DJ visited a doctor and was given the news that cancer had returned in August 2020. He announced in August of the same year that the cancer had spread to his spine, brain and lungs. His wife, Nadine, confirmed that James died earlier today. She told The Express, "James slipped away very gently this morning. It was a beautiful passing, and he left with a smile on his face." In a statement shared on social media, Talk TV said, "We are sad to announce that James Whale MBE died earlier today, aged 74, following a lengthy battle with cancer. As a broadcasting legend for over 50 years, James will be missed by so many at Talk and the wider News UK family." James' friend and colleague Mike Graham read an obituary on air to the broadcaster. He said, "James began his remarkable career in the early 1970s when he pioneered a new kind of radio in Britain, the late-night shock jock phone-in. By the late 1980s, the James Whale radio show had become a cultural phenomenon, broadcasting every weekend on ITV. He attracted millions of viewers, making him a household name. James would go on to host a variety of programs for ITV, Sky and the BBC before finding a new audience for talk radio, all the while continuing to make headlines during his appearance on Celebrity Big Brother. In 2006, after surviving kidney cancer, James launched Kidney Cancer UK, raising hundreds of thousands of pounds. In 2024, James was awarded an MBE in the New Year Honours, recognising his extraordinary contribution to broadcast and charity. James Whale broke the rules, he shaped the airwaves and did it all on his own terms. For millions, James wasn't just a broadcaster. He was a companion, a provocateur and a good friend that we'll all never forget. God bless you, James. We'll miss you." In his final newspaper column, which was released just one day before his death, James said, "What's surprised me most is how much better in myself I feel since finally moving into a hospice near my home in Kent a week or so back. I began to feel better immediately. More positive. I feel at peace here, even though I'm not a religious person." He went on to write for the Daily Express, "I know I've reached the end of my life but I'm quite sanguine about it. Despite everything, I'm happy to go now and a lot of that is due to the people who work here, because they make dying as peaceful and pain-free as possible." The tragic news comes just hours after James' pal, Eamonn Holmes, shared a heartbreaking update, confirming he was at the end of his journey. Speaking earlier today on GB News, Eamonn said, "A friend of ours, James Whale, who I have been to see, is nearing the end of his life, maybe this week." Christopher Biggins, who was appearing on the show, said that the pair had visited James at his hospice over the weekend. He commented, "We went on Saturday to see him, and he looks terrific, I have to say, and it was great to see him, but it's his voice that's the trouble." The irony of being a journalist and using his voice on the radio brilliantly over the years, but now his voice is going. Christopher added, "What was so wonderful is the hospice that he's staying in, which I think needs something like £12 million a year or something to survive. It was just wonderful." The nurses were phenomenal, so he's being looked after royally, and I think that keeps him going, funnily enough. And he has a wonderful room with a view of trees and wonderful squirrels coming in to see him. James recently said he was struggling to breathe, think and talk, as he entered week 7 of his 12-week prognosis just a matter of weeks ago. The host had remained committed in sharing updates with his fans as he carried on his podcast, Tales of the Whales, alongside his wife Nadine. A touching clip from the columnist's last podcast was recently shared on Talk TV. In it, the journalist summons the strength to say to his wife Nadine, "We've had a good time together, haven't we?" A supportive Nadine, who was next to him while the episode was being recorded, replied, "The best," before James whispered the words "I love you" to her. Clearly emotional, Nadine said, "I love you too, Shall we sign off on the podcast now? Before his death, James reflected on his career, saying, "In 52 years of broadcasting you'd have thought I'd have run out of things to say, but I haven't. I'll really miss my listeners. I've been very lucky to have had such a great time doing what I loved." Speaking during his final broadcast interview last month, James said, "Welcome to what may be my last interview. I have spent 50 years on the TV and radio and I have had a great time. In fact, actually a man who could spend the next 50 years on TV and radio is my next guest, Nigel Farage." At the end of the interview, he told Farage, "I hope I have got more than a few weeks." Farage replied, "You never know, miracles do happen." James went on to say, "They do," before saying his career had been a miracle. He added, "Considering I had no A-levels, O-levels, CSEs or even a letter after my name for broadcasting." Meanwhile, his wife, Nadine, said earlier this year, "I'd rather have had these 5 years with James, and the journey with the cancer, than not met him." Last year, James was awarded an MBE for services to broadcasting and charity. Upon collecting his honor, he said, "Talking about this stuff helped me enormously. A lot of people think the last thing they can talk to you about is the fact you have cancer. I found it easy. All of this feels very unfair, especially to Nadine, but we've had 5 wonderful years together." James was put on steroids following his diagnosis to treat his stage 4 cancer. But in June, he revealed he had come to the end of his treatment. Speaking at the Trick Awards in 2023, which he attended with his second wife Nadine Lamont Brown, James told The Mirror, "I'm kind of at the end of my treatment." But with trademark humor, he added, "When I lose a lot more weight when I get really ill, I'll look fantastic. I've just come off all the steroids I was on, which made me look like a bloody balloon. I'm feeling better from that." James' wife Nadine also explained, "He's had all the possible treatments, he's on a clinical trial, but we're probably going to be winding up on that quite soon. It's stopped working," James added. "The cancer gets into your head and sometimes you can't stand noise. At the moment, I have got cancer fatigue, which makes you very tired. Some days I might feel sorry for myself. I feel sorry for my wife really. It's more difficult for her." In November 2022, James told the British Curry Awards he won't be here in a year's time. Addressing the audience at the ceremony, he said, "I know a lot of you won't like me, but this time next year I won't be here. I have terminal cancer. As you might be able to hear, I am having chemotherapy which makes it harder for me to breathe, but I'm okay. Don't worry. I am in my 70s now and I just want to say don't waste your time on stupid things that don't matter," he said. 25 years later I've got it again. I'm 71 and I've had a great life. James previously admitted that he thought about ending his life by euthanasia. The talk radio star lamented the thought might as well go and get it over with crossed his mind at first. He told The Sun, "I came home, had a little think about things. I decided I'm just booking myself a trip to Dignitas. You might as well just go and get it over with. I'd looked into it quite some time ago because Melinda died 2 years ago and it's been something in the back of my mind," he said of his first wife Melinda, who died from lung cancer aged 68 in 2018. James and Melinda were married for 48 years and shared 2 sons. He continued, "This little BD has spread. It's in my remaining kidney. I've got a couple of small lesions in my lungs. I've got it in my spine. I've got it in my brain." James rocketed to fame in the 1980s when he established himself as the host of the James Whale radio show in Leeds. The radio presenter was a big name on TalkSport for over 13 years and was a huge player in catapulting the station into unwavering success. Later, he starred in Celebrity Big Brother in 2016, where he was regarded as one of the show's favorite personalities. The former Celebrity Big Brother star had been fighting brain, spine, kidney, and lung cancer. In 2000, the broadcasting star had one of his kidneys removed due to a cancerous tumor on it. However, after feeling unwell for about a year, the radio DJ visited a doctor and was given the news that cancer had returned in August. James was undergoing immunotherapy and hormone replacement treatment while awaiting a prognosis. He had hopes of returning to work in a bid to avoid chemotherapy. After sharing his diagnosis, James admitted that he thought about ending his life by euthanasia. The talk radio star lamented the thought might as well go and get it over with crossed his mind at first. He told The Sun, "I came home, had a little think about things. I decided I'm just booking myself a trip to Dignitas. You might as well just go and get it over with. I'd looked into it quite some time ago because Melinda died 2 years ago and it's been something in the back of my mind." He continued, "This little bastard has spread. It's in my remaining kidney. I've got a couple of small lesions in my lungs. I've got it in my spine. I've got it in my brain." He survived his wife Melinda, who died 2 years ago in 2018 after a long battle with lung cancer. James rocketed to fame in the 1980s when he established himself as the host of the James Whale radio show in Leeds.